What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to be talking about 10 very specific fragrances. So this was voted on by my channel members, and they decided it would be a good idea for me to make the video with 10 masculine fragrances with what I believe to be timeless scent profiles. Now, this is personal choice. You may agree with some of these, you may disagree with some of these, but one thing is for certain: they'll never get old, and they're definitely worth checking out. Let's discuss, shall we? Stay tuned. Starting with one of the best out of the early 90s, we're talking about Issey Miyake's L'Eau pour Homme. Beautiful yuzu, fresh green type of fragrance. Kind of a spicy green, to be honest with you. We gotta spray this one. Just beautiful. It smells of the 90s. There's a few fragrances from the 90s in here, because I mean that was my favorite decade. So we're gonna have a few fragrances featured. And this one, even to this day, this is a recent repurchase. I had a 40 ml years ago when I was a teenager. I don't remember exactly when. I want to say my late teens. But this is one that it always reminds me of that time. But some may disagree with me, but I think it'll never get old. It'll never not be a great masculine scent profile. It's very, like I said, it doesn't smell unisex in any way. It doesn't necessarily smell like something most women would want to wear themselves. But when I think of a more elegant scent profile that has a lot of masculine tones, mainly these green, herbaceous, spicy tones, a little bit of freshness. It's not a yuzu bomb, but that citrus is definitely there. And then it dries into some woods as well. There's a little bit more complexity going on here in the note breakdown, but that's really what it's all about. The yuzu, the green spices, and the woods. That's my main takeaway from it. And believe it or not, still performs pretty good for me. I'm sure it's been through many formulations over the years, but for me personally, I still get 6 to 8 hours in longevity, and I can't complain about that. The first one that I think is always going to smell good: L'Eau pour Homme from Issey Miyake. Now this is much more of the modern masculine fragrance, more of the 2000s decade, I believe is when this came out. I want to say mid-2000s, and I would love to see them flanker this one. They flankered it with Dylan Blue and all that. I mean a concentration flanker, because we have Versace Oud Noir. We have Versace Dylan Blue, but Versace pour Homme, also known as Versace Signature. This is incredible, and I would just love to see them do a concentration flanker to this one. Don't get me wrong, this is timeless. There's never going to be a bad situation for this. This is, in my opinion, the safest office fragrance of all time. I have dubbed it as my choice for the king of the office, though I know Prada L'Homme has gotten that. Others may be in consideration. For me, it's this one. I don't think there's anything fresher and safer, because you're going to get a beautiful, juicy citrus. It's a watery, aquatic feel, a lot of neroli. You're going to get a lot of this soapy white floral tone, clean musk, soft woods. Not crazy like old school masculine. Like I said, this is more of a modern masculine scent profile, more of a soft fragrance. If you work in a setting where fragrance isn't really something that is favorable, maybe even like there's risk of, you know, if it's bothersome to some, you might end up in HR. This might be the fragrance you can get away with a few sprays, but in most office settings, this is fresh, clean, very professional, smells great, can pull compliments, and it works in every single attire. You can't go wrong here. I don't ever think there will be a bad time for Versace pour Homme. While I do believe all of its flankers to be better than the original, gotta throw some respect on the name of Acqua from Giorgio Armani. This is the all-time greatest seller. Even to this day, we're mid-2023 at the recording of this. This is still one of the most sold and most worn fragrances for men. There's guys that have been wearing this for decades at this point. And they just rebuy when they run low. And I can tell you firsthand, my wife's a big fan of this one. This is another one of those 90s classics that really smells like the 90s. Citrus greens, has that cologne smell to give a little bit of that aquatic, fresh green feel, some muskiness to it. A lot of clean, like aquatic musk. What do I mean by that? It's very watery and fresh white musk. A little on the synthetic side, though, don't get me wrong. Definitely does not smell natural. But it still smells good. It still pulls compliments. I know people have said in the comments other times that I've mentioned this fragrance where it's just awful performance for them. I actually get decent performance. 6 hours easy with the woody notes on this one. That cologne note just goes and goes and goes. Very synthetic fragrance, don't get me wrong. But one of the best smelling, best selling synthetic fragrances of all time that it'll never go out of style. It'll never go out of style. It still works. They're making flankers that smell like higher concentrations of it that people are loving. That's how good this base DNA actually is. It's 90s man in a bottle, basically. It's Giorgio Armani, Acqua di Gio. This next one I feature because it's this particular scent profile done right. We're talking spicy aromatics. Barbershop style. Lavender, spicy green fragrances. Some people compare this to being kind of like a niche sauvage. I guess I kind of get where they're coming from. It's a very fresh cut lavender. It definitely doesn't have ambroxan and stuff, but we're talking about Kajal Faris. So this is kind of the reimagining and perfecting, in my opinion, of a timeless aromatic barbershop scent profile. Like I said, I can understand where people are coming from tying it to sauvage, but there's no annoyance of ambroxan and sharp synthetics or anything, because this smells like standing in a field of lavender. Fresh cut type of stuff, not super soapy or anything. Spicy green, a little peppery, woodsy. Like I said, I get the tie-in, but this is on a different level of quality. Performance is fantastic. This is such a great fragrance. It's kind of like vintage meets modern in many ways, because it's old school aromatic fougere with kind of that modern feel and quality ingredients. You really can't go wrong here. This is one of the best of the house as far as versatility and ease of wear. Very, very masculine scent profile, and I would encourage you to get a sample and try this one. Like I said, this is one of the newer releases from the house in the last year or so, but also one of the best overall releases from the house. And it's Kajal Perfumes, Faris. Well, if the last 13 years has taught us anything, this scent profile will continue to be copied, twisted, tweaked. There's even a flanker to it coming out. We already have one flanker. Apparently, rumor has it we're getting another flanker to the famed Creed Aventus. That's right. This is very masculine, very popular, and I think timeless. It's not getting old. There's still humongous fanboys and support groups, if you will, for Creed Aventus. This is great, guys. It's known as the king. Depends on who you ask. I wouldn't say it's the best men's fragrance of all time, but I throw some respect on the name Creed Aventus, I have to say. I have a ton of fragrances that smell like this, including this 19S11 batch, and a recent acquisition of Aventus Cologne, which I do like a little bit better than this, but beautiful, citric, a little touch of apple, but most notably this sweet, juicy pineapple smell, birch smokiness, a little bit of rose, but depends on the batch variation. That's a real thing with Creed Aventus. Musky fragrance, a little bit of vanilla. You might get a leathery feel. It depends on which batch you have. I don't get much of a leathery feel. This particular batch, 19S11, a lot of pineapple. Not heavily smoky, but a smoky tone. And like I said, I get a little bit of the rose feel here with some musk. Not heavy on the sweetness. Beautiful fragrance. Super, super versatile, signature scent type of stuff. It's kind of like the Rolex of men's fragrances. It's a status type of fragrance more so than it being the greatest fragrance. Just like the Rolex is a status watch and heritage and all that stuff. It's not the best watch on the market, you know, but it's like I relate it to the car business, for example. When you get into management, you get your bottle of Creed Aventus, you get a nice suit, nicer suit than you were already wearing. You get a nice belt, you get some nice shoes, and you get your Rolex. It's all the total package, and this is the fragrance that is the icing on the cake. I don't ever think it'll be old. Like I said, the last 13 years has taught us this is going nowhere. It's super masculine, and I think it's timeless. It's Creed Aventus. Here's one that's debatable, I think. Some people are going to want to debate me on this one, and hey, it's my opinion, you know. I have nostalgic ties to this one. I've always related this to success. Smells like money to me. I mean, hell, the bottle is green and gold. Cash and gold bricks. With Polo by Ralph Lauren, also known as Polo Green. Obviously, this isn't a vintage formula. This bottle's like 2 or so years old. But it still smells amazing. Spicy green, earthy tobacco, dry, aromatic. It's good stuff. We're spraying this one. I think it's timeless. I don't think there's ever going to be a bad situation for this other than high heat. Take it out of high heat, put it in cooler weather, dressier occasions, business professionals that want to make a kind of assertive statement, cooler weather especially. In the cold, oh, this is so good. Even casually. I just love this fragrance. I always have. I don't ever think it's going to be out of style. This is timeless to me. This is all-time great masculine perfumery, or cologne as it would have been called. 'Cause, I mean, this has been around a long time. Sometime in the early 80s, I want to say. When this came out, late 70s, early 80s, I don't remember exactly. I believe it was in the 80s. But when I was a kid, I used to have a 40 ml bottle of this. It used to be my school dance fragrance. This is what I used to wear to school dances in middle school, like 7th, 8th, 9th grade. This was my jam. That's my nostalgic ties to this one. Like I said, I think it smells of money. I think the color scheme is fitting, green and gold. Green and gold's all about dollar bills, y'all. You know what I mean? So performance is still really good. Obviously not the monstrous performer that it used to be. It's been through many formulations over the decades, I'm sure. But I still get well above 8 hours. And it's pretty damn loud for about 2 hours. So timeless, all-time great, Mount Rushmore type of designer cologne, in my opinion. This would go on the Mount Rushmore for me. It's Ralph Lauren's Polo. This next one, admittedly, I don't wear that much. I had a smaller bottle many years ago that I used to back the old sticker label, the vintage one that people go after. I had a bottle of that long, long ago. This rebuy was for nostalgic sakes. I don't really wear it all that much, like I said, but if you want a lavender aromatic that features a soft tobacco note, you might want to look into Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. This is a timeless classic. Even these reformulated bottles that have the print instead of the sticker, everybody goes after that 1995, at least 94 formulation with the sticker on the front. I get it. It was a little better, I have to admit. This is lighter, but it's still like a 6 to 7 hour fragrance on my skin. Great work fragrance. It's great casually too. If you like lavender, it's a beautiful aromatic fragrance that doesn't really have a lot of spice. Little bit of tobacco here. Kind of has a little touch of Versace Dreamer going on, but I think it's a deeper fragrance overall because I'm not really all that much of a fan of Versace Dreamer. Some of you know that. Some of you are like, oh, I can't believe you don't like that. Not everything's for everyone, fellas. And that's the case with every fragrance in this video. Not all of these are going to be for everybody that sees this. But this is one that gets forgotten, lost in the shuffle, that I don't think is ever going to be out of style. I mean, lavender with some masculine tones, especially something like a dry leafy tobacco, an aromatic tobacco, that's never going to be a bad situation. I mean, there's fragrances, they're very expensive fragrances that kind of fall into this range. Think like Creed Tabarome, for example. It's kind of a similar profile to this, lavender and tobacco. Different woods and stuff like that, and herbs in the heart. They have their differences, but they definitely have their similarities. But this is also the fragrance that spawned a flanker fragrance line that's still pumping out annual flankers to this day. So another one that deserves some respect on its name, Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. And speaking of that flanker line that's still spawning flankers every year, Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Pour Homme. Yes, this, some of you didn't even know that this is a flanker to this. This is a flanker that has now spawned annual summertime flankers, which currently we're at Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Summer Vibes. But this is still the one. This was monumental for me. This was a turning point fragrance. A lot of you've heard the story. I've said it many times in videos, so I won't go deep into it. Just know that this is one of my favorite scent profiles of all time. I've been through multiple bottles. I have this little 40 ml I've been working through for a while now. I'll never not have it. Citric, grapefruit, if I remember correctly, a little bit of incense and pepper. That's what I love about it. It's a fresh aquatic with incense and pepper. noticeable and noteworthy. A peppery aquatic. You just don't see that too often. One of the most complimented fragrances of all time for most guys. This is kind of like Acqua for some people, where they just rebuy it when they run low. I've had co-workers in the last few years that they still rock this every day, no matter what they're wearing, no matter what time of year it is. They just wear Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue because they always have, and their ladies, whoever they were married to or girlfriends they've had or whatever, always enjoyed it because this is still an undeniable scent profile. I don't think this will ever not be good. And a lot of its flankers tie directly back into this DNA. Some of them take their own twist and turn and don't have much light blue going on in them. But the majority, they do a pretty good job of making flankers to the flanker. Because yes, this is a flanker. And everything since has been a flanker to the flanker. But timeless. I'll always think this is the best one. Maybe it's out of nostalgia. Maybe there's bias there. I'm sure there's some form of it because of the nostalgia. That was my watch hitting the desk. But get your nose on this one. If for some reason, younger fellas that might be watching this and you haven't tried this one yet, get your nose on it. Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue. Now, another one that's been heavily replicated that I just recently got a bottle. I've smelled times, multiple times over the years. I had a carded sample years ago. Not that long ago, like 3 years ago, was the first time I actually smelled the real deal. I've got a ton of fragrances, niche, designer, cheapies, Middle Eastern clones that smell like this. That's why it's never gonna not work. It's timeless. It's inherently masculine. It's super popular for women to smell on men. It's another Creed fragrance. It's Silver Mountain Water. I sprayed Zaharoff Mephisto. Hell, it's right here. I sprayed Zaharoff Mephisto on my arm today. Not the exact same fragrance, but boy, it's sure similar. It doesn't have... This has a herbal tea note. It's much more sharp and metallic and musky overall. There's a ton of flankers. Most famously, Club de Nuit from Armani, which I think performance, price, all that. Yeah, it smells cheap and synthetic, but it's probably the best one. I have a ton of fragrances that smell like this. Literal, not literal, but kind of literal in some ways, because it's just so many. Fragrances that smell like this, and it's my wife's favorite scent profile. This and the Abercrombie & Fitch Fierce scent profiles, her two favorites. That's why I have so many fragrances that smell like both of them. It's nice to have the real deal now, because it is that good, it is that jam. I forgot when this came out. Was it 05? I want to say it was 05. 04, 05, something like that. I don't remember exactly. I didn't check, shame on me. But I've heard this called Mr. Steal Your Girl over the years. I've heard it called a bunch of things. And it is inherently masculine. It's fresh. It's modernized because it just... When it came out, there wasn't a bunch of stuff that smelled like it. It has spawned a ton of stuff that now smell like it. And like I said, including niche fragrances. Mephisto smells pretty close. But I will say this, that if you're going to try all the clones, at least get your nose on the original to really understand what they were trying to encapsulate, because the magic is in this porcelain white bottle. It'll never be old. This is timeless, guys. It's Creed Silver Mountain Water. Last but not least, this one was junior high for me. This was my main everyday fragrance during junior high. I would have grabbed my 200 ml to feature in this video, but it's packed already. For those of you who don't know, I am moving in a few days at the recording of this. So, my 30 ml that's running low of Boss number 6. Hugo Boss Bottled. It's still the best smelling one. Even over the intense eau de parfum. I still think it's the best one. Again, that could be nostalgic bias, probably the case, but crisp, sharp apple, cinnamon, and woods, that apple pie smell. But, I've called this in the past, that gray color cap is fitting, great gray suit fragrance. This was when I worked at Mercedes-Benz. The main suit I used to wear was a gray suit. And that's where this giant dent came. That's where the 2/3 of this bottle emptied. I used to wear this with a suit. I'd wear 5-6 sprays. 4 or 5 hours later, I'd throw a few more sprays on. There was a stretch where I was rocking this every time I pulled out my gray suit, because it's got a sharp dressed man type of feel to it, even though it can be on the more casual side. I think the sharpness overall gives it that appeal. It's much, the Intenso de Parfum a lot will say is the greatest version ever. I understand that. I get it. It is the best flanker to this ever. That I will concede. But that's much more warm, sweet, and smooth. Whereas this is sharp, bright, fresh. It'll just catch you. Performance is not great though. You have to keep that in mind. But you know, there's another one that might be debatable for some with me. I mean, all 10 of these, somebody's going to say, no, not for me. And then there's going to be a bunch of people that agree with me. It's all opinions. But Boss number 6, I'm sorry. If you've never smelled this one and you have a bunch of Boss bottled flankers, you're doing it wrong. You should really try the original. This line infamously has a bunch that don't smell like this one, but they have a decent amount that do tie back into this original DNA. But I still think the original is the best smelling one. Once again, I'm sure there's a nostalgic bias here, but every girl crazy about a sharp dressed man. Think about that ZZ Top song. This is that fragrance that really fits the theme of that, and a great suit and tie everyday wear for a business professional, but casually, it just doesn't matter. It just works, and it'll never not work, in my opinion. Boss number 6, Boss Bottle. Well, that's the 10 that I have for you today, and until next time, do me a real quick favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. What's some timeless masculine scent profiles for you personally? Some of you are probably wondering why Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger wasn't in here. Well, I don't know what box that bottle's in, because I would have put it in here. I don't know what I would have subbed out, though, because I'm very happy with my 10 selections here. But as an honorable mention, we'll just discuss Tommy by Tommy Hilfiger. One of the 5 greatest fragrances of all time, in my opinion. 90s in a bottle. Green, bitter green, citric fragrance, very woodsy. I think that one's timeless, too. But that is 100% nostalgic bias. I can tell you that for certain. But until next time, I will say if you get your hands on any of the ones that I did feature in this video and you give them a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.